Good morning. My name is Bill Schurmer, a member, I believe, in good standing of St. Peter's by the Sea Presbyterian Church. You know, when Kathy told me that it would be real easy to just put my cell phone down and talk into it, I thought that'd be a piece of cake, but I found that not to be the case. And right now I'm standing here in front of you with my phone propped up in a potted plant outside my patio to get the best light. Well, on me, that's pretty difficult, but I'm trying. Again, I'm Bill Schurmer, and I'd like to dedicate the following to my mates in Wednesday morning Bible study who, without their listening and caring and guidance, over the years, I doubt that I'd be speaking with you today. I'm going to read because I found that when I tried to editorialize too much, I missed my points, so please bear with me. How does one discuss the meaning and true value of the powerful words, love one another, in a short 5 or 10 minute talk? Well, these words resonated so strongly with me that I would like to give it a go. This is my first attempt ever at any kind of a testimonial, as I think it'll be obvious when I'm finished. When Pastor Paul asked me to give this talk, I hesitated because the last thing I want to do is talk about myself, and if only for 5 or 10 minutes. But this, I will make an exception, because this again means so much to me. The timing happens to be perfect, as there has been a very recent event in my family that tested the very value of living by the core of love one another. It hit so close to home that first I want to read 2 scripture verses that stand out to me. They come from over 100 references in the New Testament alone pertaining to love one another, love thy neighbor, brotherly love, and the like. The passages provide a basis for my brief talk. I obviously can't read them all, but I selected the following. John 13:34, a new commandment I give to you, that you love one another just as I have loved you. You also are to love one another. 1 Peter 4:8, above all, keep loving one another earnestly, since love covers a multitude of sins. By coincidence, Alex Perez used this same one several weeks ago. I want to say that sometimes to live by these wise biblical pieces of advice can be quite challenging, not only when things are going well, but when things get sideways. In other words, I still tend to struggle, big time. Please allow me to illustrate. To set the stage, this brief story involves my grandson, Brian, a newly enrolled freshman at the University of Minnesota, the school of his dreams. He is away from home for the first time. He is a very diligent young man, having worked several years at various jobs in the hometown of Ojai, California, to build up money enough to defray the expenses of living on campus. He has saved up over $7,500, which he deposited in a local Minneapolis bank. At this point, the beginning of his college career took an ominous turn when he tested positive for COVID-19, and he was quarantined in an on-campus hotel waiting to move into his permanent dorm. Waiting to move was very testing to him, and he was sort of isolated. So one day the phone rang, and it was a recorded voice representing Social Security Administration, stating that his identity had been stolen and criminal acts had occurred under his name. To add to this, and the real kicker, was that he was going to be arrested that very evening, but that he could avoid that fate by allowing a government agency to intercede in his behalf. He was asked to press 1 for further details. Scared to death and not a worldly lad, he continued with the call. At this point, he obtained a live voice who represented himself as a government official, badge number and all. Keeping him on the line, they instructed him to go to the bank, where he drew out $7,500 in cash, leaving him with all of $23. I think you get the idea. After 2 hours of absolute misery, the scam was complete. Story over, money gone. When Brian found that he had been scammed, needless to say, he was devastated, as were his parents, as was I. My reaction, which is the main point here, was very human, one of anger. Actually, I was frustrated, thinking things like, what would I do if I'd get hold of these perpetrators? It was just unbelievable, and I really had to loosen myself from thinking these things. One might call it a silent rage. No love for anybody or anything at that moment. I was being severely tested. In my years prior to learning Scripture, this situation like this could very well have held on to this rage, not hurting only myself, but those unfortunate to be around me. All the while being of no help to some who may have needed my counsel. You see, before I had nothing in which to counter that rage. Now I have Scripture to live by. As a result, I seem to be able to move from a human state into what one might call a spiritual realm. To coin the old phrase, I don't have to step into the abyss, I can now step back from it. I no longer hold on to useless anxieties, being judgmental, and want revenge on an invisible enemy. In the case of Brian, I was able to move forward in a calm manner, giving what advice I could with a positive, can-do attitude. You know, I see love one another, as well as many other similar Bible passages, as a positive two-edged sword, at least for me. Of course, they promote peace and love, and even sometimes forgiveness, but they also help me to avoid needless anger and anxieties. As a result, this one simple passage gives me that inner peace when I need it the most. Somehow, I was able to draw on that higher power, and now I know where I can go when I need help, and that is often. By the way, Brian is doing well. He has incredible resolve, the love and support of his parents, friends, and even from his grandpa. God willing, he'll come out the better from this dreadful experience. Now I would like to touch for a moment on how St. Peter's embraces love one another, and how my affiliation with our church continues to influence me. Most recently, St. Peter's has adopted the fall theme of love one another. This blessing is now proudly displayed on a banner prominently placed in the parkway in front of the church for all to see. This message has resonated quite well, not only among our congregation, but throughout the community as well. When I see that banner, ponderous message, hear the reaction, and sit down and write this reflection, it brings me back to 17 years ago when Sharon and I wandered into our church after 25 years of non-attending. We had no spiritual foundation at all, not in the least. We quickly found that just attending wasn't sufficient. Since that time, I have been fortunate enough to have been involved in a number of activities, or ministries, as we now call them, all of which include elements of caring, helping, and learning, and through learning, seeking. This is where my love for the Bible and its scripture messages began, and where that quest continues to this day. I personally define St. Peter's by the people within, those many folks who have crossed our path who otherwise we might never have known. Where else in life do you find a group so dedicated to love and serving others? Isn't that what we're talking about here? Isn't that what Scripture guides us to do again and again in Jesus' own words to his disciples in John 13:34, which I've said before, the new commandment I give to you, that you love one another just as I have loved you, and you are also to love one another. To me, that verse heads the list of instructions for all of us to follow. Just look at what ministries St. Peter's provides, both within and outside the walls of the church. Deacons, Stephen ministers, endless mission activities, both local and worldwide, just to name a few. As I see it, these all fall under the broad heading of love one another. As for me, during this time, it seems of an endless pandemic, I find gratification in talking to others, enjoying the time with them. Not because I have to, but because this is what I wish to do. It's not work, but the joy of talking to nice, interesting people with a story to tell. They mostly are seniors like myself, some who can no longer attend, and others, not always seniors, just in need of an ear. Sure, there are problems, some life-altering, but you don't have to fix it. You just be. You may go to coffee, visit a senior home talking over a long table at social distances, or take a hike with someone who will soon become a friend. You find that there can develop a bond, and this is a real good thing. It's a two-way street. My reward is a good feeling of gratification. I only hope that others feel the same. This is ongoing, something I plan to continue to do as long as I am able. In summation, as you have probably figured, the scriptures I read earlier, as well as many like them, have come alive, living and breathing as they become a true guide to my Christian living, and I plan to keep on learning. I find myself to be extremely fortunate as I live in the latter stages of my life. I've got my family who support and sometimes tolerate me. I've got my God, I've got my church, and I've got my scripture, all surrounding me to keep me on track to help me assure that love one another is alive and well as long as I'm on the face of this earth. What more can a man ask? May God bless you all. Thank you.